Time running out. Clarkson, can they make it happen? McGrath there, the touch goes, and there's the bar!
Alistair Johnston simply must score to keep Celtic's treble dream alive. It's Aberdeen's cup! Dimitar Vitov has won the Scottish Cup for Aberdeen! It is quite sensational!
Hello and welcome along to a very, very special episode of the ABZ Football Podcast as we rapidly close in on our 300th official episode. As always, I'm Gary Scott. Joining me tonight, first of all, it is my co-host, Graham Steele. Graham, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Very pleased to be here.
Absolutely. And well, it's no secret who our guest is because you can see him on the screen. We're joined by Pleasantville, New York's most famous son. It is a 2025 Scottish Cup winner, the one and only Dante Polvara. Dante, welcome to the ABZ Football Podcast. How are you, mate?
Thank you. Very good. Thank you for having me.
No, not a problem. The pleasure is absolutely all ours. And thank you so much for taking some time out of your preparations as your St. Louis side travel to take on New York City FC this weekend. Before we get on to talking more about Aberdeen, your time in Scotland, how's life back in the States and how are things going so far?
It's good. It's a, relatively new team. So very different to Aberdeen. We don't have all the history. Our goal is simply to be the first one in the history books to hit certain milestones and whatnot. But leaving Aberdeen and the support we have there, I was hungry to come somewhere in the MLS that also had a very good following and support. So we've got a great setup. It's a sports crazy city. Actually, a big history in football, our football. So yeah, it's been good. It's obviously been very different, but I've been enjoying it. Good
stuff. Of course, Aberdeen sporting director Lutz Pfannenstiel was influential in starting up the St. Louis story there. Is Lutz's kind of fingerprint still very much all over the football club to a certain extent?
Yeah, I think he, a lot of the philosophies he had wanted, by bringing in the right people that could support the right culture, making sure the staff and players were all good people to start with. A lot of those people are still here, so of course, he had a big say in a lot of that. And as you say, that footprint's still very much here. We've transitioned into a new sporting director. So, of course, it will take time for that sort of to, those ideas and philosophies to materialize more or less. But, he had a big say here and a lot of success and early on. And,
Good stuff. If it's okay with you, Danny, before we start talking more about Aberdeen, I guess, let's just have a look through your kind of actual journey to Aberdeen beforehand. I mean, take you all the way back to just being a kid, I guess. Where can you remember when you kind of caught that football bug?
First time I remember watching football was the 2006 World Cup final.
You're making me feel old now.
I was 6 then, so that was my first. That was my first experience, and then, of course, I think over here you play for, similar to in Scotland, you play for local clubs and stuff. We didn't have a big professional club system for me in the younger ages, so I was never part of a professional academy early on, as guys over there would be part of Aberdeen or some of the other local clubs. And then New York City FC started when I was 14, 15, and I eventually was playing for their academy between 17 and 19. That was my first professional football experience. And then, I decided to take the college route. Some guys wanted to go play pro right away. They were probably more prepared in that moment for that. For me, it made sense to do school as well. And and then, college went really well for me, and you know, I was aware of Scottish football for a few months before I left, and then I had that connection with Bobby Clark through my head coach, who used to play and coach for Bobby. So, and then it happened all very quickly, and then before you know it, January 22, I was in Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Before we come on to talk a bit more about that journey and everything, your favorite team growing up?
I was always a Chelsea fan growing up.
We'll let it go. It's fine.
I know it's not the best answer for a lot of people.
All right,
There's very few people I say that to, and they're happy with my answer. It just is what it is.
Absolutely, no, definitely.
You've touched on your little bit of your college experience. Starting out in New York City FC Academy, and then going to play for college football at Georgetown. But just out of curiosity, what did you study at college?
I studied finance. That was my major, and I've actually had some calls recently on how I'm going to get that finished. So I think it's a bit easier now being on similar time zones to hopefully get that done. So I have a little ways to go, but yeah, that was my main focus.
Graham will help you out. He's in finance as well. You're sorted. You're all good.
Yeah, if you want a really unexciting chat anytime, you know where I am.
Perfect.
Also, during your college playing days, you picked up a number of accolades, in particular the Herman Trophy in 2021, which an individual award to the top college player in the States. Just how big an honour was that to you, and I guess probably your family as well, that's probably had to give up a bit of time and effort to support you in your career to date at that point?
Yeah, that was really cool, to be honest. It was the first time I had any proper individual recognition. I had always been a part of great teams. I had great teammates, and a lot of them who were better than me. And, the midfielder I played with that year Sean easily could have won that as well. But it was more, it was funny enough, it was in St. Louis. It was my first time being here. I was here for a night, and it was freezing. It was in January. It was right before I came to Scotland, and I thought, okay, I'll never come back here. And then 4 years later, this is where I end up permanently. But yeah, it was kind of a nice cap to end my sort of college career. I was lucky enough to be a part of a team that pretty much won everything we could. So yeah, pretty cool.
I mean, you kind of touched on it a minute ago, Dante. Very soon after picking up that award, you make the move to Aberdeen in January 2022, signed a 2.5-year deal to come to Aberdeen. I mean, moving from the eastern seaboard of the US to the northeast of Scotland is a massive shift in and of itself. I mean, you touched a little bit there about the kind of relationship that your coach at university had with Bobby Clark, who's obviously a legend at Aberdeen Football Club. But when the opportunity to come to Scotland came about, did you need much in the way of persuasion to make that move, or was it something you were kind of dead excited and dead set on from pretty much the moment you heard about it?
No, I was excited. I think over here we grew up watching anything European based, of course, Champions League, all that great stuff, Premier League, it's streamed even better here than it is in Scotland, supposedly. But so we have access to all that, and you grow up watching that, and the idea to be in that sort of environment where people care that much, you feel like you're really playing for something. Not to say that it's not here, but of course it's different. Like, as I said, we don't have the history here. And, Aberdeen's very much it felt like the city revolved around how the football club was doing. And I don't mean to say that in a snarky way, but it's a big part of the city, and it's a big responsibility we have. And so for me to be a part of that and experience that was exciting. So yeah, it didn't really take much convincing. I knew there were, some logistics. I was, of course, sacrificing a lot at the time, giving up a lot, giving up completing college degree and leaving friends, girlfriend at the time, everything behind to pursue this. So yeah, it was difficult at first, but in the end, super grateful for everything.
What would you say was probably the biggest culture shock that you experienced when you arrived in Aberdeen? Either, I guess, that could be the city, the club, the football, or a bit of everything.
You're not allowed to say the weather, though.
No.
Well, I was going to say that, but then
we get bad
you've
weather
already
in New York,
described.
so I know the weather is a bit relentless, but I think for me, I knew people cared about the football, but I don't think I realized how important it was, and how, after a loss or a draw against an opponent we felt like we should be winning against, how that shaped the weekend. Like, now there's no, you're not going out, you're probably not even going out for dinner with the family. Like, you kind of want to keep your head down, and versus, of course, when we were winning, how amazing it was. That was a big culture shock for me. I came from playing academy and in college where, yeah, it was cool, great, we won, whatever, but it didn't change anything about your regular life. So for football to actually be impacting my life outside of football, that would have been the biggest shock, I'd say.
I'm going to presume that Stephen Glass must have had a bit to do with persuading you to make the move to Aberdeen as well. Obviously, Stephen had come from Atlanta United. He'd been kind of very influential with their Atlanta United 2 setup. He'd had a spell in charge as an interim manager there, was very well versed in the American system of soccer, shall we say. But within 5 weeks, I think, of you arriving at Aberdeen, he's been dismissed from the club. I mean, you must have been wondering at that point, like, what the hell have I done here?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's no point hiding it. Like, I guess I also didn't realize how quickly things could change. I had been, of course, when you play youth football, your coaches don't really change much. In college, my coach has been there since probably 20 years now. So to have that consistency taken from you, and then realize, like, your whole plan of how things are going to go is now completely off the board. That was difficult to take, but I think it was kind of important for my development to learn how to handle that sort of adversity. I think I had it relatively easy before that. So to kind of, to play for Stephen was the idea, and his style of football. It was something that I was excited about. Of course, Christian was there I knew I'd have someone to help me transition a bit of home away from home. And at the time, Bruni was there, and I was looking forward to learning from someone like that played my position, So that was all exciting for me to be a part of. And as you say, like, shortly after Stephen left, Bruni did as well. And of course, Christian's influence in the team did as well. And so, like, 3 big factors for me were kind of more or less changing drastically. And so, of course, everything that happened after is, we all know, but it was a lot to take early on. And I think I trained 2 or 3 times with the team, with Glass, because I had a hernia surgery, which we knew I was going to have to do as soon as I got there. So we got it done. That was about a 4-week recovery. So I hadn't even really got to train. And it was crazy, really. I think I remember understanding what the pressure was like watching the team play St. Mirren away. They won 1-0 or something. And I think Connor Ronan scored. And I remember seeing the next day in a training, like, realizing, like, wow, okay, things change quickly here. This is completely different.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the probably early official pictures we saw of you was the thumbs up from the hospital bed after your surgery. So it's quite a lot to take on board when you've just arrived at a new club, bit of turmoil, and then you're not able to get going as quickly as you probably wanted. Moving on from that, sort of game time was a little bit limited in your first season, but when you did make your debut coming off the bench in a 1-0 defeat at Ibrox, what I was really wondering is how intrigued, or how do you know what it's like, that sort of rivalry? How do players in the dressing room educate, not just yourself, not necessarily being from Scotland, but any of the new players as to what it's like for Aberdeen, and did you get a sense of what that rivalry meant before, or is it something that you only really understand when you actually experience it?
So I remember maybe my second day in Scotland, we played them at home. It was mid-January. It was a close game from what I can't remember what the final score was. And I kind of could tell from the crowd, like, there was a bit something extra. But, I wasn't really close with anyone on the team to have these sort of conversations. So as you say, I missed a couple weeks training with the team, and then, I'm kind of just there on the bench. Haven't really been told what's going to happen. Am I playing? Like, I no expectation going into this. I'm amazed by the atmosphere. It was their 100-something anniversary. So I know it was a big day for them. So there were the extra fireworks and whatever on the walkout. So to just be in an environment like that, my first game was exciting. And then I think after the game is where I really realized, coming into the change room, players, of course, not happy, senior guys having a go at each other. And that's when you realize, kind of how the environment's going to be, but also what that meant. We conceded late on in that game. I remember, I know we didn't really create much going forward, but we could have easily came away with a point. So, of course, we were disappointed, and other guys, a lot more than disappointed. But that's when I think I had a proper introduction to Scottish football and kind of the stakes at play.
I think it's probably fair to say you find it difficult to break into Jim Goodwin's thinking. Do you think there was any particular reason for that? And, is that something that you would try and sit down and have a chat with him about to see what, if anything, you could do to force your way into his thinking?
To be honest, I think I was probably just a bit soft for Jim at the time. Like, I was still adjusting to the pace. That was the biggest difference. The football here was a lot more methodical and slower tempo. And I wasn't used to receiving a ball with someone behind me and ready to press every single time relentlessly. So I think, adapting to the pace of play was difficult. And then I wasn't great at using my sort of frame and physicality. And I don't really blame Jim, for not trusting me. I was young. I know in training I was very good. Like, you can ask some of the players at the time. I would train well. I would apply myself. As the months went on, I was getting better in training, more confident with the guys, more confident in the group, more so being myself, less worried about being young and respectful of the older guys, And in terms of personality, like, me and Jim got on perfectly. Like, he always liked me and I liked him. But in terms of the football, yeah, I think for how he wanted and what he needed at the time, maybe I wasn't ready to give him that. Of course, now I would have argued that I just needed to be put out there more and experience it more. My first 90 minutes in 6 months or so was at Celtic away. Very tough place to go. And of course, I lose my man on a corner. There were tactical things we could have done to prevent it. I don't think it was just down to me, but of course, that's what it looks like. And then I let Jota run past me and he puts it top bins from 25 out. So it doesn't look great, which I totally understand. And I'm a bit slow, of course, like, as I haven't played football in a long time. But I thought I kind of grew into the game. And even he said that, I remember, the following week. But I knew the lineup was going to go back to how it was because of Scalesy being on loan and he was going to come back. And that was okay. But I think I could have made more of an impact off the bench and kind of learned and, been given a bit more opportunity to figure that out, which it just takes time. Like, unfortunately, I know you don't exactly have time, but I think at 21, 22, completely new, like, there were definitely signs that I could have helped the team at the time, but I wasn't ready to be the guy in the middle for sure. Like, and I don't resent anything, anything towards him for that. Like, I totally understood at the time, and even more so now.
I mean, Dante, before we get a chance to talk about positive stuff, we kind of have to ask about this a little bit because you were an unused sub, I recall, at Tynecastle and then also at Easter Road in the, quote, one bad week that ultimately cost Jim Goodwin his job. Those games, of course, sandwiched the defeat to Darvel, which you weren't involved in the squad for that one. If you can, just like take us into the dressing room during that week, and in particular, I guess, at Easter Road. What's the reaction in the dressing room as you hear the manager's been basically sacked in the tunnel? Basically, as you're all cooling down, he's crossing the pitch and going over the advertising boards to leave without you guys. What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, that was mad to see happen in real time, we kind of knew that. I think he was surprised to still be taking the game on the Saturday after how the week had gone. And so as a team, we knew we had to step up for him and get a very good result. And we did the complete opposite. We capitulated. And so I think it was a given. I don't think we expected it to happen in the tunnel, of course. And, it's always hard for guys because for a lot of guys, Jim would have been the guy who had brought them in, and kind of like with Stephen with me, that whole thing falls apart now. How does that look? There's all this uncertainty. What's happening next? Who's coming in? It's never an easy time. Of course, football is very fickle at times, for months on end you're starting, then all of a sudden you're not even in the plans, right? And so I think we kind of knew the squad was going to get shaken up a bit again. Who was going to take over? No one really knew. And of course, you're coming off the as you said, the worst week I definitely experienced at the club. I mean, it couldn't have gone any worse. It was pretty hard to believe what was actually happening. So a very interesting time. I think for me, my individual situation, it was. Because I was already told I could leave, but I felt like I don't want to leave because I still feel like I can do something here. I understand, like, I don't know what it was going to take, what was going through my mind, like if, maybe there was going to be some suspension, some injuries, rotation, bad results, what it was going to be. Because at the time, coming back from the World Cup break, we were actually in a good position. Yeah. So the idea of another manager getting sacked hadn't even crossed my mind, but I kind of felt like, I know we get along. I'm still growing up, still adjusting. Hopefully he'll see something, Of course, it never really happened with Jim. But yeah, so I guess in a way when everything's changing, it's an opportunity to be the one to adapt the best. Like that's how you have to see it, I guess. And, some players more than others struggle to adapt, like different playing styles, different personalities of leadership. It's difficult. So I knew I was going to have to adapt again. That was kind of my idea, and obviously things had to change because what we were doing was not working. So you knew there was going to be change, and it was like, how do you become a part of that somehow? Yeah.
It was a hell of a week. Let's put it that way. Did Jim say much in the dressing room after that game at Easter Road? Did he even get a chance to, or did he just grab his stuff and he was away?
He came to speak to us, and he was good about it. Like he didn't have a go at anyone. There were definitely some people, giving their 2 cents, and more than fair. I think we were all embarrassed. More than anything, I hardly saw anyone picking up their head, to be honest. Like, it was tough to look at each other. Like, what have we just done this week? You're thinking, why are any of us even here? Like, do any of us deserve to be here? So that was tough, and it, I'm not even playing for a team that's doing this badly. Like, this does not look good. There's no way to spin this. This is shocking, right? But he he left in a good way. Like he always had a good relationship with the boys, and I don't think he'd ever be the type to come in and cane anyone for letting him down. Like he wasn't selfish like that. Like football's mad sometimes, and he was grateful and said thank you to the boys for giving their efforts, and yeah, that was kind of it.
So not long after that, I think you head out on loan to Charleston Battery, making 21 appearances. So how important was that loan spell for you? Probably just from the point of view of trying to rebuild your confidence and continue your development, because by your own admissions, things had kind of stalled a little bit since you joined Aberdeen.
Yeah, big time. I mean, it was mainly about just being happy again, and not just football. Like, because as you said, like we're going through tough weeks. I'm not involved. Like I know I'm not gonna play. I'm over here alone. I'm keep thinking about everything I gave up to be here, and it's not panning out. Of course, it's mentally it's really tough. I had to really hang on to some of the other guys, and they were always, our change room has always been a strength. I thought we've always had really good characters. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it because maybe it doesn't show on the pitch, but in the change room, there's always been good guys, sometimes too nice, which is a fair criticism, but they were always there to support me and help me. And Charleston was an opportunity for me to enjoy playing football again, play consistently, get fitness up, confidence being the biggest problem. I was confident because I knew I was training well, so like I knew I could still compete within the group. It was about how do I show it on a Saturday. And then, just being happy and excited about playing football and outside of football. Charleston did a lot for me. I had a great coach there and a great team, and it's a beautiful place. So it was hard not to enjoy. We were also relatively successful in that time. It was Barry's decision at the time. He liked me, but he wanted me to go and play and just enjoy football. And he was always adamant that I was coming back. And I didn't really believe him, to be honest. Like I kind of thought he was just saying that. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted to at that point. But he was always very adamant that I was coming back. It was a little bit easier to come back seeing Duke score every week and us qualify, and Kel keeping us in every game. And, I would get up early, watch the boys before I'd play. And it was exciting, I'm sure for you guys too, seeing that push for third. And then the idea, of course, playing in Europe. Yeah, I was excited to come back.
Yeah, 'cause I was going to ask if there was any chat about you not coming back, but obviously there wasn't. So the fact that Barry had kind of suggested you go out on loan to get some game time, but with the knowledge that he wanted you to come back, I guess that probably sharpens your focus a little bit, because you've discussed the sacrifices you made, but maybe at that point there's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel where there is a manager, hopefully he'll be there when you return, and he's saying, go out, have a bit of a reset, get some game time, and I want you back. That must be quite a good feeling.
Yeah, no, it was. And of course, seeing him win games and seeing like, okay, he's actually going to get the job. Because, I used to, for example, the Darvel game, I'm left out the squad, and I'm asking, I'd go and ask, like, can I come trim the 18s? And he was the manager. So, there were a few opportunities where I would go train, Jack would go train, like some of the younger guys, we would ask to train because what else were we doing? Like I came here to play football. So to have a day off while the rest of the team is playing, it felt so pointless. So I had a good relationship with him. I always, even though I was a younger boy, I applied myself, and I think he appreciated that. And he, saw some qualities in me. And yeah, of course, as it became more realistic that he may get the job permanently and the boys were going to qualify for some exciting, competitions, then it became a no-brainer. Of course I want to be back.
I was going to say, I mean, you then have probably your breakout season, right? The following year under Barry Robson, I think it's 40 appearances you make in total across that season. Scored 4 goals, the first of which, of course, came in the Conference League game at Eintracht Frankfurt. I mean, ultimately, the game ends in defeat. Graham, you and I were there. Dante, you nearly caused me to break my back slipping on beer in the bounce when you scored. But okay, the game ends in defeat. But on a personal level for you, how special was it to get your first goal for Aberdeen, but to do it on that stage as well?
It was amazing. Like I get goosebumps thinking about it because it was massive for me. You know, I'd started a few games at the start of that year. Again, wasn't probably fully ready to go. Like, needed more, you know, probably needed to come off the bench. Jamie came in a bit later, and more than rightly started playing. And so, you know, I had just scored my first professional goal, I want to say in May or June, in a baseball stadium in Tulsa, I believe, in the middle of the country, you know, second division, you know, which was so exciting for me. And if you can imagine the jump to then scoring in the Conference League away at Frankfurt, and 3 months later, I just... couldn't really believe it, right? I was playing out of position. We decided to completely change tactics that week to, of course, they respecting a very good side and, you know, our first game in the competition. So we changed formation. I was playing a bit out of position. I was just focused on the defensive side, really. I didn't really think that I'd be getting the opportunity to score. So that was pretty cool. Definitely... probably the second most exciting day in my life for football, and a great moment. And I just wish I could have also seen the footage from the crowd or been there or something, because everyone always tells me about how they were falling everywhere and stuff flying. And but, you know, like, I think that's the coolest thing for me being a footballer for Aberdeen was hearing the amount of people that used to come up to me and say, hey, you know, me and my dad went to the game together, and it's like my best memory I have with my dad, and blah, blah, blah. And that's pretty special to hear that I contributed something to give them that, you know, that I guess in the end is kind of why we do it. So, very cool.
You were, you managed to be involved in a number of the European games for the club. And this is kind of a bit of a cliche between the fans. It's maybe the fact that, you know, in general, there are fewer European games than anything else. But how special are the European nights at Pittodrie? You know, and just what's it like being a part of that?
Yeah, no, they're amazing. You know, I think it's a different style of football because, like, you just don't know who you're playing against. You do film, you do this, but you don't really know what to expect, how it's going to match up, how are they going to be able to handle sometimes the conditions at Pittodrie. And, you know, it always felt like there was a bit more energy in the stadium. Of course, a night game as well. But yeah, those midweek games, even, you know, I know this past European campaign was disappointing, but I think back to the first game, Shakhtar, like how close we were, or even when we played FCSB in the qualifiers, like they ended up being really exciting games in the end. Of course, didn't go our way how we wanted, but there was definitely something special about it. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's because we never play these teams, and it's a one-off occasion to see a team from Romania or Germany or whatever it is. But yeah, it's really cool. You have the music when you're walking out, and it definitely creates a different atmosphere, I'd say.
Do you have a particular favourite moment from the games in Europe that you played? Probably your goal, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, the Frankfurt goal, I just couldn't believe it, you know. But I'd say also when we beat Frankfurt at home, you know, like, of course, having the individual moment is cool, but I know they were already through and we were already out, and no one really expected it. I've heard plenty of fans tell me they sold the ticket to some of the Frankfurt fans who couldn't get in, you know, because it was a whatever game. But I think it made it kind of special, and it kind of put a nice ending to that European campaign. And that's a pretty cool result to have, regardless of the situation. So I think winning, and we had the cup final a few days later. We were the part of the rotation group. So no one really expected anything. So it was pretty cool that we managed to put that together.
Absolutely, it was a very interesting European group stage, that one, and I think realistically, I think we were actually quite unfortunate in the end that we never came out of that group. There was, I think, a few results there that we probably could and should have hung on for. I think we should have won against Helsinki both times. I think that there's an argument to say we should have beaten PAOK at home as well. And of course, you get a draw in Greece, and suddenly the group can look very, very different. But as you say, it's all about the memories there, Graham. Again, Finland beer slushies, because it was so cold. The beer they were pouring on the ground was just turning to slushies in the stands. It was incredible.
And the amount of times that they had to stop the game for the fans throwing snowballs at the keeper. That was... I've
seen that before
during a game. I was freezing. So I kind of wanted that. I wanted everyone to stop so that we could finish this game, because I was freezing. But it was pretty funny. I remember seeing some photos after people's frozen beers and whatnot. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
I've never seen a tractor have to clear the pitch. I've never had a delay.
It was
a tractor.
And I'll always have this image of Shinny just in a blanket eating pizza because he wasn't playing. And I'm thinking, what's our captain doing? I'm freezing. Like, we're playing in a European away, and I just see this guy eating pizza, wrapped in a blanket, like all warm and cozy on the bench, happy he finally gets a rest. Unbelievable.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Talk to us about Neil Warnock, Dante. What was that spell like?
It was really funny. Like, it was miserable, of course, but we had fun at the same time. We really messed up our season there, because I still think we could have made something out of it. And that's not necessarily his fault. Like, we just couldn't get some things over the line. It just wasn't working. And I'm sure he'd say the same thing, but he was great. Like, you definitely wanted to win for him. That was the most disappointing thing. Like, you wanted to win for him. He was fantastic to have, He's a very funny guy. I remember one day he said that I was one of his favorite players. I was shocked because he had dropped me for the first game. I was the only guy that got dropped. And I got dropped because I wasn't following the runners off my shoulder well enough. And I remember explaining to him that I'm actually like more of a 6'8" versus like a winger. And he was like, that makes sense, because you do not look natural out there. I was like, I don't want to be out there. Like, if you want to play me in the middle, I'd much rather be there. But so we got along from the start. I just wish we had some more success with him. It could have been a really fun, exciting end to the season. That we kind of messed that up in a few results. You think the St. Marin away, and there's a few others that we could have done so much more with. So that was disappointing, but it's a lot of good memories in a short space of time.
He made you captain, didn't he, one day? You got the armband.
Yeah. Because we made a bunch of changes at half. I think maybe we were winning at half. It was a cup game. And he started asking who was the vice captain, and I think he was calling for Nicky. But Nicky was still like taping or something. He was messing around doing something. And I was stood at the door ready to go out, and he was just like, you take it. And he just put it on, and I was like, I can't really say no. And Nicky didn't really have an issue, so we just rolled with it. What a funny memory. Like, but yeah, I mean, he was great. It was great to just spend some time with him. Of course, he's, had an amazing managerial career, and to have a very small part in that, as I said, a lot of good memories in a short space of time.
Like we said, it was like a bit of a breakout season for you in many ways, that campaign. Then the news comes in, I think it was the April, that Jimmy Tilline's going to take the job in the summer. Peter Leven obviously takes charge to the back end. We get through to the back end of the season, playing some pretty decent stuff. Obviously, the cup semi-final against Celtic is a bit disappointing in the end because of how we end up losing on penalty kicks. But the performance that afternoon was really, really good. Probably our best performance of the season, it's probably fair to say. And it looked, to all intents and purposes, that, you know, and when you looked at Jimmy Tilleen's, you know, track record at Elfsborg and the way he played at Elfsborg, I remember us on this show looking at you in particular and thinking Dante's going to be like a really integral part of this squad and the first team going through. And then, of course, injury hits and you kind of struggle to get into that side, despite being the auxiliary set piece coach I think you were tasked with at that point. But for you, again, just how frustrating was that for you, given how well the prior season had been for you on a personal level?
I couldn't really believe it. Like, and it still sucks to think about, to be honest. As you said, like, things were finally going right for me. I was playing more my position now. So I know I was playing a lot earlier in the season, but I'm never going to be a top right winger or whatever, you know. But I was starting to play a bit more where I felt I could impact the team in the best way. You know, I felt like I was playing well for Pete. The team was playing well, so it was easy to play well. I had great players around me. And yeah, like, end that season on a real high, I think, with, of course, we're playing in the bottom six, which no one wants. But, you know, we made the most of the situation, I thought. And I was really excited, you know, to meet the manager, to get going. I think the plans were for me to have an important role. So I came in really fit. I was as fit as I could have been. And, you know, I know guys sometimes get injured when they're not fit and whatever. I couldn't have been more fit. It was a double session, second session of the day. Did we need to be doing what we were doing? Probably not. Like, we were doing set pieces. It was silly. We'd been standing around a lot, you know, in preseason. I think we were playing the next day. Leighton plays a ball in front of me. We're supposed to be, you know, attacking set pieces. I stretch for it. And I've never really suffered from big injuries. So in that moment, to feel my hamstring just fully pop, fully torn, and then, of course, hearing how long that's going to be, I couldn't believe it, you know. And then, as you say, it's tough to get back in, you know. I think he now had to kind of readjust how he's going to look at the team. So now he was trying to get me more at the 10 because he knew, you could see in training I could score goals. I could finish well. I think he liked having a bigger guy in and around the box. As you know, Poppy used to play a lot there too. Kind of that 10 role. We were, of course, would have been very different, but having someone bigger arriving into the box late, it worked out really well for Poppy. But it was just difficult for me to break back in, and I was always asking questions. You know, I think at times I showed, even off the bench, that I probably deserved to start a game here or there. I remember there were a few games where we were missing guys and he still didn't really want to play me, and, you know, fair enough. That's his decision, and I understand I probably look a bit weaker, a bit slower. I haven't even played 60 minutes, so I get it why, you know, maybe he was not so eager about getting me right back in there.
Do you think
it's disappointing? Yeah.
I was going to say, do you think if the way that the season had panned out, possibly, maybe you'd have got more of an opportunity? You know, because we had such an incredible start to the season, and then it kind of falls off a cliff pretty dramatically, and then we never quite just got back there again, and we were a bit streaky.
That's the other thing that made it very difficult. Like, I actually was fully fit and on the bench for the first game that we lost.
Yeah.
I was telling the team I'm the problem here. Like, and then we just couldn't. And then it just turned to the complete opposite. We couldn't win. I couldn't believe. Again, another situation where you're just thinking, what is going on? Like, you know. And I remember him telling me, you know, sometimes it's difficult to change a team when they're winning, but it's also sometimes difficult to get you in there when the team's struggling so much, because of course you have to go to who do you know, who can you rely on, who has got your results. You know, I understand that. I, of course, said, you know, my argument would be something has to change. You know, it is what it is, you know. It was a tough time for everyone, you know. So my personal ambitions and desire to play, like I try to set that aside as much as possible because the team needed this. We didn't need individual issues about people asking why they're not playing. The team's not playing well. We can't win a game. There were more important things at the time. And then, of course, I re-injured it at Ibrox. Smaller, though. And I knew it wasn't right, but I was desperate to play. So I started the game against Elgin because I knew I was going to play. I refused to admit to myself that I was injured. Did it make it worse? No, I don't think it made it that much worse. But after that, I was out for some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game I was playing through pretty tough injury, but I was just so desperate to play, and to prove. And when you haven't played football for that long, it's hard to accept missing more. So yeah, it was a tough time, as you said. That season, for what it looked like and how I expected it to go, it was tough.
For all of that, though, it ends all right. Funnily enough, we're going to spend a wee bit of time on this. 24th of May, 2025. I mean, nobody gives us a chance going into this final. Our season, we just touched on it there, had collapsed pretty dramatically. We'd been thumped by Celtic just a week and a half prior at Pittodrie by what you could possibly argue was a not full strength Celtic side as well that evening. Take us into camp in the days building up to Hampden. Like, I sensed there was a genuine belief in the squad that we could pull off the result, but where was that message kind of being driven from? Where was that belief coming from? Because, everything was pointing in the opposite direction, if we're being brutally honest about everything.
I think full credit has to go to the manager, to be honest. He was really good at the psychology behind the game. And he was really good at talking about, like, he would just keep mentioning, like, so guys, the week gets extended, or the season gets extended an extra week, right? Because we're in the final. So guys who are trying to go on vacation, whatever, that normally you book for the morning after the last game, right? He said early on when we won the semifinal, I think it must have been the Monday, he said something about that week, like, if you're booking flights, do not book the Sunday. Nobody's allowed to book anything until the Monday because we will have the parade on Sunday. And that's just how he would say it. Like, and it was just the constant repetition, like, where he was like, we're going to have this parade on Sunday. We're going to be celebrating on Sunday. Like, and I started to believe him. There were some other upsets around the world, around Europe. I think maybe in the week prior or leading up to that. Palace won, I think. And there were some other upsets around Europe. And it was kind of starting to think, like, wow, like, why not? Like, after how catastrophic this has gone from where we thought we were for us to drop from 3rd to 5th on the last day. Because, yeah, it didn't end up how we wanted, but to finish 3rd would have been fine, right? Like, we could have been happy with that, right? Finish 3rd, cup semifinal or final, But it felt like, okay, there's a lot not working out for us. Like, can this just one day just work out? Like, and yeah, as you say, there was a lot on our side that day. But credit to him, I believe that we were going to win. And I think a lot of the squad started to believe it. I don't know if everyone, I doubt everyone believed that. As you said, I think the fixture before didn't really help confidence, but I was just starting to think, like, football does funny things, and, like, why not? Why not us today? Why can't this just be our movie today, So, yeah, and a great day, as you say.
So when did the squad actually find out the starting lineup and the formation change? Is that day before, morning?
No, we were working on that throughout the week, and I think they were probably 2 or 3 pieces who were thinking, oh, hey, we might start. You know, there were a few spots up for grab, but you knew the bulk of the squad that was going to play. All week you're pushing to try and prove that you deserve to start. I kind of had the idea in my head, like, that I was in good position to start, but if you didn't start me, it was going to be fine because I was going to end up finishing a final. Like, I'm going to come on and finish this final. So, like, I was going to be okay either way. Like, I had some sort of faith that it was going to work out. But, yeah, we were working on that all week. I think from the Monday, I think we were all shocked when he said he was going to change formation. We're going to completely change it because we hadn't really done that all season. We were kind of like, this is the philosophy. This is what we're going to do. So that was a bit of like, oh, wow, okay. Why not, right? Because it clearly didn't work last week. So why not completely change it and see what happens? He was very positive about stuff like that. And I think that sort of positive mentality, like, was so important for us to have success on that day.
So, I mean, ultimately, you did start the game on the bench. So, are you a good spectator, or are you? Do you hate watching from the sidelines?
I think when there's a lot on the line, it's tough. Like, because you almost feel more nervous sat there. You keep seeing the clock keeps going, and you're thinking, oh, it's getting closer to when I have to come on. But you just know you're not quite ready because you're just never ready off the bench. It's so difficult to get your heart rate up and get your, muscles feeling the way they would be if you had started the game, because I think at the start of most games, it takes a few minutes for guys to get up to speed. And when you're coming into a game where everyone else is at that speed already, it can be tough trying to find that rhythm right away. Of course, we're down 1-0, and I'm just thinking, all right, like, can we just snag something here? Like, anything. Like, somebody pull something out the hat, 1-0, it's close. Anything can happen here. So, and, yeah, you're feeling relatively optimistic, I'd say.
I was going to say, you come off the bench on 79 minutes, I think it is, alongside Shaden Morris and the semi-final hero, Ode Daba. I mean, it didn't take you long to get up to speed here, Dante. It's 4 minutes later, we're on level terms. This is an easy game, isn't it?
It's funny because all week I'm training in midfield at the 8 all week. I'm trying to get that starting position at the 8. I think Dante ends up playing. And I'm coming on for Ante, I believe, and he comes and sits on the bench, right?
Yeah, and then
as that's happening, Doro goes down with cramp, and the manager's just like, all right, you just go back there. And I'm thinking, oh, now I got to defend these guys? Like, are you kidding me? Like, in the final 10 minutes to go, I haven't even – so that's another spanner in the works on that day. And, yeah, I couldn't believe when we scored, and the sound of the stadium was – and it was great watching it from the back, seeing – everything in front of me, our crowd, our half. It was amazing. Yeah, great.
I was going to say, you couldn't see it in Frankfurt, but you probably got it like tenfold there.
Yeah.
From probably the best view in the stadium, I imagine.
Yeah, it was unreal. It was so loud, and it was people just pouring down. Like, it was great. It was great.
And so as the game wears on, you had a pretty good chance to win it in extra time, maybe just leaning back a little bit as the ball was knocked down to you from a corner. Did you have a wee feeling that maybe that was the chance and this might be over?
To be honest, I think that actually gave me more confidence, knowing I was like, okay, now I'm gonna score my penalty, because we had a corner just before that few minutes. Scalesy was marking me, and someone knotted it down, but I couldn't get there in time. But I thought, because I was making a sort of near post run. So when we get the next corner, I'm thinking, after my run, I'm going to check back, because last time it kind of fell into space and maybe it will happen again. and it did, and I caught it too nicely. Like, I caught it perfectly. As you say, leaning back a bit, but I couldn't have hit it sweeter, and it goes just over the bar, and I'm thinking, damn, like, I could have been the hero, you know, but all right, fine. That's fine. Like, I'm just, because we're starting to get closer to penalties at this point. Now I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to take a penalty, and if I didn't score that, then I'm going to have a bit of luck on this one, you know. That was kind of my mentality. I knew it was a big chance, but I kind of knew that we were going to find a way to squeeze this to penalties.
So coming on to the penalties then, is that already predetermined, or, you know, did the manager basically just
No,
look for
we
volunteers
winged
to
it.
see
We
who was
winged it
feeling
on the sideline. Yeah, he was just, you know, who wants to take one? There were a few guys who wanted to take one. You know, I know Mats was supposed to go fifth. Of course, Shinny was going to take one. Daba, striker, right? Ante can hit a ball sweetly. So it kind of made sense. And I was always confident in taking penalties, of course. And I had told him all season, like, I'm going to have an important moment. I didn't think it'd be in the final. But I used to tell the manager, like, I used to, you know, because he would try and keep me positive too when I wasn't playing. I'd be like, it's all right. Like, I'm going to have a moment that's going to be important. I thought it would have to do with qualifying for Europe or getting third, whatever. I did not think it would end up being in the final. And I actually wanted to go later, like fourth or fifth. And then he was just like, you're going second. So we didn't really have much say in the order, I guess. But it was good seeing Shinny go first and bury his. I think that gives you a lot of confidence. Yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, Shinny scores after Celtic have had, well, their first save by Dimmy. That's a long walk from the halfway line up to the penalty spot. Just, can you remember anything? Like, what's going through your mind as you're striding up there?
So it's just all green and white, right? That's all you can see because we're looking at them. And I'm seeing, of course, Schmeichel, who we know has had a great career. Like, I know this is top keeper, right? I was thinking, like, you know, this is pretty cool. Like, but as I was getting closer, I think you start thinking, like, there's a lot on the line here. Like, we got to get this right to make a lot of people happy, you know? And I just try to tell myself that I was taking penalties on, you know, some of my friends that were goalies growing up. You know, we're just messing around in the backyard after training, whatever it is. Just try and put myself in that moment. You know, I close my eyes just before I run up to try and reset the moment. And I also remember, like, constantly flexing my quads and my calves on the way up because I'm struggling to feel my body. And it's not because I'm tired. Like, there's a lot of energy going through my body at the moment. So, like, every step I'm taking, I'm flexing my quads, my hamstrings, my calves, whatever it is, to try and get feeling, like, to feel my legs again. And then, yeah, I don't remember seeing the ball once I kicked it. I just remember seeing it coming out the goal and that he dove the wrong way. And then the rush of, like, I've never had so much of a release of just, I'm missing the word right now. I remember saying in the interview, but, like, just relief, just rushing out, like, you know, I took care of my moment. And that is my job done, right? And it was cool. And then, of course, you turn around and you see, as you're walking back, all of our fans, and that's when you start to feel like, okay, we've made the first two. I think they made the second one, I think, but they had missed the first. You know, you're starting to get closer to kind of where you need to be. And then I went back to half telling the guys who were about to go, I was like, that's easy. Like, don't worry. I'm just trying to convince them that it's okay because I know it wasn't. But I remember Matt saying to me after the game, he didn't end up taking one, but he was like, "You're actually pretty convincing. Like, whatever you're saying was helping. It was making me less nervous." And I was like, "Yeah, it was not easy, but I was just trying to get in their head that like it's fine. Like, don't even worry. Like, it's actually not that bad as it looks from back here." But yeah, when you're up there, yeah, you're struggling to find. As I said, I was struggling to find feeling and sensation in my body because just the nerves of the moment. It's, the biggest moment I've had in my career by far.
Yeah. I mean, like, all of our penalties are superb, right?
I
Every
had the
one of
worst
them.
penalty. Like,
No, it's a good pen. It's been
yeah,
harsh.
it's a good pen, but it's the worst of the four. They all went top corner. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, they made me look bad. I hit it as perfectly as I wanted to, and I'm watching them. Like, Dava's almost barred down. Shinny's going top corner. Ante side netting top corner. Like, unbelievable. Like,
I mean, there was some conjecture in the aftermath of the game that we'd identified that Kasper Schmeichel had maybe an issue with his shoulder. He'd had some surgery, I think, on the shoulder and a couple of weeks beforehand, and maybe wasn't comfortable diving to that side.
mm-hmm.
Is that the case? Was that something that somebody had picked up
It was
on?
not discussed whatsoever, and I don't think that would ever impact a player's decision. Like, just because as a player, this is a massive penalty that you're going to take. You want to do what you're most comfortable with, and I don't think any of those guys would have allowed, because he's injured, to sway their decision. It was funny seeing that we all went to the same side, but at the same time, two of them were left footers. So we actually went 2-2 on the penalties. Like, me and Ante closed our hips. They both opened up. We took different penalties, but they're just on the same side, I remember seeing that after the game, people talking about that. And I had totally forgotten. But as I said, like, that's where I was going to go no matter what. I had made up my mind a very long time ago. I wouldn't even say in the lead up. The next penalty I was going to take was always going to go there,
Daba's penalty is ridiculous, right? His run up is awkward, and the finish is ludicrous for that particular moment in time.
I was very scared. But great penalty.
Unbelievable.
Did you have any doubt that Meathoff was going to save from Alistair Johnston?
Alistair's
especially the last one.
He's a good technical player, Like, to be honest, I thought we would have to make the fifth, and Mats was going to be the hero. So that was pretty cool. You just get it done with. Fine, perfect. Mats was happy. He didn't have to deal with it. Like, everyone's happy. Pretty cool.
I mean, talk to us just about that moment, right? I mean, there's the iconic footage of you from behind the goal as Dimmy saves the penalty. There's obviously a fantastic moment where you and Graham Shinney embrace afterwards as well. But I mean, just that moment of winning the Scottish Cup, and how aware were the playing squad as well coming into this one, just as to like how much it meant to the club, to the support, and also to the city, right, to win the Scottish Cup for the first time in 35 years?
No, I don't think any of us understood how important. I mean, maybe Shinny, but I don't think any of us understood how big of a deal it was. I was trying not to watch. I was looking at the crowd, and then there's a big screen there, and they had the live. So I was trying to, really focus on a section of the crowd. Yeah, just amazing, right? So happy. Like, it's almost like the entire season didn't matter. The entire Premiership didn't matter. Like, nothing mattered because we figured it out on one day, which is crazy, but it's really how it was. And of course, the aftermath of everything, then you really see how much it means to the city and the club, and you get to speak to a lot of people, and they tell you, about how maybe they have never seen the club win a Scottish Cup, or how they were there at the last one and they were 15 or something, and now they're, 50 years old, whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, what a weekend. Like, as I said, as Jimmy had decided, like, the parade on Sunday was going to happen, and that was great. Like, it was just an amazing day. I had my father there, my girlfriend there, like, and I think a lot of the players had their families there to experience it together. But just to experience it with other people that we knew from around the city was so cool.
So following the the final whistle, the penalties, the presentation of the cup, in terms of sort of dressing room journey home when you go back to Aberdeen, where does that rank in terms of experiences? The bits that you can maybe remember.
You see, my issue with that bus home is I always struggle after games because I never feel great, because you have the combined nerves of the preparation for the game. I like to take caffeine, and I'm taking a pill for this and a pill for that, and so you never really feel great after a game. You feel quite exhausted. So I really wish I could have enjoyed it fresh, but having said that, I mean, it was a very funny bus ride home. Plenty of things going on, and the change room as well was just a mess, but it was just great to see so many people happy, the staff, people around the club, families. Like, that was an exciting day. And you knew you had the next day coming up, but we were out late that night, didn't get a lot of sleep. A couple of the boys showed up late the next morning, including Shins. As a team captain, we're like, where is our captain? But he was great for like making sure that culture was there and making sure the boys really celebrated that moment, because he knew how difficult it was. Obviously, he had done it before, and just being able to enjoy that entire weekend with everyone, it's amazing.
Speaking of that, then, who, and we won't betray too many confidences here, but who was the player or member of staff who perhaps made the most of it?
I mean, there's a lot of nominees, I'd say. Like, the staff, it was great to see the staff in that way, to be honest. That was really funny. And the way the bus is, like, the players actually sit up top and the staff sit below. So they came upstairs for pretty much the whole way, and they're running up and down the aisle. Like, it was funny seeing a lot of them in that way, and, seeing them open up a bit more personality-wise. Everyone's enjoying themselves. To be honest, I don't think there's someone that stood out as being a disaster. Everyone was pretty well behaved. Probably, I think Sunday things got a little messier, I'd imagine. I left Sunday probably 9 o'clock. I had a 5 a.m. taxi the next day to Edinburgh to get to the airport with some of the boys. So I left, but I'm pretty sure guys stayed out late Sunday too, and that's after not sleeping much Saturday, probably not sleeping much Friday night before the game. And I mean, it's just a funny weekend.
The next day, you already touched on it, that you may already had you guys bookmarked in for the open top bus parade. It's tradition, obviously, in Aberdeen that when you win a cup, you get to do the open top bus tour. It's not something that happens in every city, especially cities where there's maybe more than one team in it. Like, we've been dead fortunate on the show to interview like a host of like Aberdeen legends from the past, and in particular, whenever we talk to them, guys who've won cups at Aberdeen, and usually it's guys like yourself, Dante, who are not from the city, who are possibly not even from Scotland, right? They always remark that the moment they realize how big the club could be was on these days, like the open top bus tour, when it feels like the entire region comes out to watch, whether they like watch football, whether they even support the football team or not. Is that something that like you would kind of echo here as well? And like, just how amazing was that day going down Union Street and around Union Terrace Gardens and up to the townhouse?
Yeah, 100%. I kept saying I didn't realize there were so many people that lived here. You know, I had never seen this many people in Aberdeen. Like, where is everyone all the time? You know, so that was just, it was amazing. Like, you know, I wish we could just relive that journey over and over, ending, you know, at the city hall and singing with everyone, chanting with everyone, taking photos, throwing stuff. Like, it was a perfect day out as well. Yeah, it was so cool. There were kids climbing up on signs on windowsills, like people everywhere on top of bus stops. You know, very cool moment. And yeah, I think that's when you realize how big the club is and how many people really care. Everyone in red. So cool. Yeah.
And just reflect on that really quickly as well. I mean, how does it feel knowing that as a result of that one weekend, right, that you, Dante Polvara, Pleasantville, New York, arrived at Aberdeen in January 2022 at what age?
21.
21. You leave Aberdeen Football Club off the back of that weekend, definitively now with your place guaranteed forevermore as being in that legendary status of players who've played for Aberdeen.
No, it's really cool. Like, and I think when you look back and you see the gap between the last Scottish Cup, like 35 years is a long time. And I'm sure there've been
Tell us about it.
so many amazing players that have played, but weren't fortunate enough to have the opportunity to celebrate that sort of moment. Yeah. And I don't think some guys understood it. You know, some guys were on loan for the second half of the season. Some guys just got there, right? They probably thought it was normal. But I think as you know, some of those times that we spoke about earlier, that going through those and suffering a lot at times, you know, to have that, that's kind of mainly what I wanted to achieve when I came here. I wanted to be able to celebrate something with a club in a city that cared a lot about it. And I think I said, like, win a cup or win something. And I knew a cup was likely the more realistic, you know, avenue. And but the Scottish Cup was just, yeah, amazing.
I mean, looking forward for you now. Obviously, you made the move back to the US in January, joining up at St. Louis. I mean, how much do you think as well your experience at Aberdeen will now stand you in good stead for the rest of your career?
Like, tremendously. You know, I think it's the most time I spent at a club. You know, other than, of course, my boyhood club, but that wasn't a professional club. You know, I was at Aberdeen longer than I was at college, which I feel a big connection to. So I feel like it's more or less the club that raised me in a way. I know it was late, you know, 21 is when you arrive, but it's more or less feels like my club that I came from. And, you know, there's a lot that I've learned. There's been amazing times in knowing how to win, and there's been some less amazing times and knowing how to deal with that. And yeah, I hope that I can use that experience to my advantage over here and where else, and hopefully that shows in, you know, how I play, and hopefully how my teams end up doing. You know, St. Louis, hopefully some of that experience can one day sort of replicate that, and we can win something too. So that's kind of the hope. But yeah, look, I think Aberdeen was always kind of my first club. It's how it feels, and my first professional trophy, and it could end up being the only professional trophy. I remember Shinny saying that, like, you guys need to enjoy this because trophies are so difficult to win. So yeah, I'm super proud to have been a part of that group, and as you say, you know, forever be a part of that group. And I still can't really believe that we got the job done, but yeah, what a weekend.
So moving on from that, you know, maybe just we get to the end, how would you describe Aberdeen and Scottish football to someone who's never experienced it? And is that, something that you would recommend to, to any young players out there, the States, wherever, where they can come and, learn the game?
Yeah, how would I describe it? Well, you see, I think the biggest difference between here and there, and that's not to take a dig at the U.S. system, but in the U.S. we have so many other sports going on. I've been watching the March Madness for the last few weeks. It's been taking over. You've got, we just had our opening MLB. I don't know what they probably don't say kickoff, but that was this past weekend. We have the hockey.
Throw off. We'll go with that. Throw off.
Pitch. I don't know.
Pitch off.
Opening day, I think, and then you have the NFL, NBA. There's a lot going on, and our country's super passionate about a lot of those sports, and they're great. Like, they're great to watch. They're great to get into. They probably have a lot more history than that MLS does. Now, I think the World Cup being here hopefully is going to inspire that next generation to want to play football and watch football and be engaged and hopefully pursue playing professionally. But Scotland as a whole has that entire foundation already, and has had that for us since the early 1900s, and it's hard to replicate that. Like, you can't forge passion, you can't forge history. Like, it's there. And so to be able to experience that and live for that and represent a club like that, or a city, like Aberdeen, it's very special. And it's great because in St. Louis you do get this idea of course, again, another one club city. You represent our city. There's a lot of honor in that too. But as I said, we're trying to create our own history, versus Aberdeen, you're trying to match history of some of the great teams from the past, trying to give fans those moments that they maybe experienced when they were younger. You have to be ready to deal with a lot more pressure and a lot more stick at times, but when it goes well, it goes so well, as last summer showed. So I would always recommend that people go experience that. I think it was amazing. By the end, it was so hard for me to leave, to be honest. I was very settled. I think, maybe my girlfriend was less settled naturally. She didn't play for the club. She didn't feel like she had this entire family that I did. But of course, there's always a time where, life needs to keep moving on. But it's a place where you learn to love, who you play for. Yeah, it was very special for me, and I would always recommend. And that's what Christian had probably told me when I was first coming. He only had good things to say. He said people care so much about it here. You're going to get recognized everywhere. It can be good and bad, but at least people care. And the stadiums are great. You're going to love it when you're winning. It's going to be tough when you're losing, but that's professional football. You should have that pressure. So I would say the same.
And then last one for me, do you still keep an eye out on the Aberdeen results?
Of course, I watch every game I can, to be honest. And luckily enough, our games are at night, and most of the Aberdeen games are in the afternoon, so for me it's morning. Put on, still got my Red TV account. Hopefully they don't take that away from me. But yeah, I'm still watching the boys. I know it's been tough for a while, to be honest. But yeah, I'm always there, supporting, hoping things go well.
Good stuff. Listen, top man, Dante, thank you again for taking so much time to talk to us this afternoon for you, this evening for us. As always, when we do these interviews, we'll wrap up with one final question, if that's okay. It's the same question we asked to every single one of our guests. Dante Polvara, 2025 Scottish Cup winner. What does Aberdeen Football Club mean?
What does it mean? I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier. Like, to me, this is only my, I guess, third professional club because of my loan right now. But Aberdeen was my first. I arrived as a boy who I can admit probably wasn't ready to do what maybe the managers needed me at the time. And I leave 4 years later, 25. Like, it's a massive years for my development, not only as a footballer, but as a person. Learn to live alone overseas, deal with new adversity. Like, always had people at the club to lean on, the players that have come and go, which have been a lot since I was there. I think it was like over 130 players or something, 140. I don't know. It was a lot. Yeah, no, the club means a lot to me, and I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to represent, but to, of course, win something for the club, and hopefully that connection will never die.
No, it absolutely will not. Like I say, you forevermore now are in that list of legends within the football club. I think Graham's camera appears to have frozen, which is a little bit worrying, but never mind. We're at the end anyway. We're on the home straight. So, Dante, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. All the very, very best for the remainder of the season with St. Louis and the MLS, and obviously for your future career. On that note, thank you, Dante Polvara.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Stand free.
Yes, of course.